welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess, and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today, and if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there on your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the Handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that Handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your Handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, hey, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your Handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going.
Thanks so much, Jess. Hello and welcome to everyone out there in the Actual Tech Media audience. Today's topic is optimizing data and apps on cloud, hybrid cloud, and on premises. A special thanks to our sponsor and expert presenter on the event today from Nutanix. We'll be learning a lot about Nutanix on the EcoCast today, so stay tuned for that. And as Jess mentioned, there's a resource right there in the handouts tab where you can learn more about the Nutanix solution. That'll take you to nutanix.com/one-platform, where you can check it out, launch the test drive, and learn more. All right. I want to mention, of course, a big special thanks to the moderators on the event today, our expert crew. That's me, David Davis, along with Jess Steinbach, who you just met there, as well as Scott Becker and Keith Ward. Now, on the EcoCast today, we have 3 Amazon $300 gift cards. We'll be giving those out today at the end of the Nutanix presentation. And as we said, you must be live in attendance to qualify. You can find the full price terms and conditions right there in your handouts tab. All right, and with that housekeeping information out of the way, it's time to chat now about optimizing your data and applications. So I've got a little short keynote presentation here to kind of set the stage for today's topic. Talking about key considerations for optimizing data and apps across public cloud, hybrid cloud, and on-premises, because this is a big challenge that so many companies out there are facing. And you know, the more I thought about this in preparation for today's event, the more complex I realized that this challenge is. When we say optimizing data and applications, there's a lot to that. It's not just a checkbox. It's not a push button. You can't do a little slider in your iPhone there and optimize your data and apps. There's just a whole lot to consider here. And that's what I want to talk about, are the considerations. Starting off with optimizing your data. I mean, we've got to prioritize data security with ransomware attacks happening left and right. In the news last week, it was MGM Resorts, in Las Vegas, and I'm not sure they even have that resolved yet. I already got a notification from my identity protection service that my data, was compromised in that. It seems like every time, one of these big data events happens where data is attacked and held for ransom, somehow I seem to get notified, and I bet a lot of you out there in the audience are the same way. So when it comes to being responsible about our company's data, we need to do whatever we can possibly do to protect that data, first from getting attacked, and also, to be prepared to rapidly recover should we get attacked. But there's a lot of different things we can do. We also need to ensure high availability for our data, making sure that our data is always available. Your clients, your employees, they're not going to accept just applications or data being down or unavailable for very long. We also need to optimize our storage because, with massively growing data sets, the cost of storing that data is tremendous over time, and it never stops growing. And so we need to do whatever we can do to keep that data set as small as possible, and also deal with the constant data challenges of our data being distributed across, SaaS applications, through partners on mobile devices. We've got desktops, laptops, mobile devices, and then across the cloud. And then we need to optimize the performance, which kind of goes along with that distributed data. Keeping that data performing well is always a constant challenge. And then moving on, another challenge related to this, we're specifically talking here about cloud, hybrid, and on-premises. And I think more and more hybrid is being considered as a great option for companies out there because of its flexibility. It gives us kind of the best of both worlds. It's not 100% on-prem. It's not 100% in the cloud. We've got a hybrid model, and we can leverage that, as we best can for the needs of our business and our applications. We can also leverage hybrid for to benefit our costs. Keep our costs as low as possible. Cost efficiency. Use it. Use public cloud when needed. Use on premises when needed. However, it best reduces our costs or keeps our costs low. Hybrid also has a number of security benefits for sensitive data and applications, and then for improved performance. Using a mix of cloud and on premises wherever it best provides the best performance, I should say, for the needs of our applications and end users. But that's not to say, we want to move 100% into the cloud. On premises offers a ton of benefits as well, especially when it comes to minimizing latency for data critical, applications, latency sensitive applications. Someone in the audience was asking just a moment ago about banking and financial transactions where latency and data, transmission is a critical factor. So on-premises might be a great option for that. We also have maximum control over our security. In fact, we have total control over everything, right? It's on-premises. We can optimize cost, and we have really the ultimate flexibility to do whatever we want to do in an on-premises environment. So where it makes sense, I think it's still a great option. And, no matter what, we need to try to automate all the things, as the saying goes, in order to optimize and become more and more efficient. It doesn't help the company if, we're spending time doing common tasks and processes in a manual way. So leverage automation as best you can. And of course, optimize whatever you can. Monitor and control the costs to keep the cost low for the company. And then, as we talked about, ensure security at all costs. And in thinking about that, it reminded me of back to my CISSP, study days and my Cisco security certification exams. It reminded me of the CIA triad, where you have confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your data. And this is something, of course, that we need to keep in mind when it comes to our data. We need to protect it, ensure that it can't be accessed by keeping it confidential. We need to ensure the integrity of that data to make sure that it's not modified in some way by a malicious attacker or simply a data, security or data integrity loss. And then we need to make sure that it's always available, not just within a storage system, but also with high availability tools, as well as data protection and recovery tools. And make sure that you have reliable backup and recovery. And I love this graphic. It made me chuckle. Those must be the BAPBuck tapes there that we would try to use to recover our data. But, all joking aside, make sure that you have a reliable backup and recovery tool, and not just a tool that can recover your data in some time frame, but a tool that can rapidly recover all of your data, and that you have, full confidence in. And then finally, second to last slide here, choose the right solution for your company. Every company is different. Every application set is different. So make sure that you choose an innovative solution, a reliable solution, an all-encompassing solution. So you don't have to go and, tack on all sorts of other solutions on top of it. Make sure it's secure. It has integrated data optimization and protection. Make sure that it's future-proof, and that goes back to the innovation as well. And finally, make sure it's the right solution for your company's unique application set and data. So that's all I have before we do two quick poll questions here. But again, thank you very much. My name is David Davis. You can follow me on Twitter or on LinkedIn as well. Always posting about cloud and data and security, virtualization, and cloud native applications. And with that, I want to take a moment to ask everyone out there in the audience for your feedback. What are your greatest challenges around optimizing your data and applications across the public cloud, the hybrid cloud, and on premises? And this is a multi-select question here, so feel free to select more than one. The answers: security, scalability, availability, cost, performance. Is it application support for your unique applications? Or is it simply adoption challenges, also known as, the pain of change? A lot of us, we don't always like change. IT organizations don't always embrace change. And I know sometimes that can be a hurdle as well. So I'll share the results of this poll here with you in just a moment. And then we'll do one other quick poll, and I'll introduce you to today's expert presenter from Nutanix. If you haven't answered the poll before, you do it right there in the slides window. Just select the option that corresponds to you and your company. And let me share the results now. And let's see, lots of good results here. 56% said security. That was the single greatest concern or challenge, followed by 51% that said cost. And after that, it was scalability and performance. So thank you, everyone who responded to that poll. One last poll before I bring in our Nutanix presenter, and that's simply, what is your time frame for taking some sort of action? If you learn about a new solution today that could, meet all these challenges that we're talking about, that you just shared, what's your time frame for taking some action? Is it in the next 6 months? Is it 6 to 12 months, 12 to 24, or maybe you're not sure? All right. Thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll. We do appreciate your feedback. And with that, it's now time to bring in today's expert presenter. I'm excited to introduce Harsha Kodikella, who's a product and solutions marketing manager at Nutanix. Hey, Harsha, it's great to have you on the event.
Hi, David. Thank you very much. That was a great presentation to start off with. So thank you for passing on to me.
Absolutely.
And
Take it
yeah,
away.
and the poll, yeah, thank you. And the poll was interesting too. And as a matter of fact, when I talked to various customers of us and new customers, that's the reason why they moved to Nutanix. Or in general, they're looking for an environment, a hybrid multi-cloud platform that could provide that security as well as help them with their cost. Security is actually critically important, right? And it is actually aligns with our topic today of optimizing data and apps on the cloud, on cloud, hybrid cloud, because data is coming from everywhere, right? Like you have, for instance, I go to the gym in the morning, right? I go to a bike class, and there's an app in the bike class basically, and that app is so cool, right? It keeps me motivated, keeps me go for next and additional mile and all. And just a few years ago, nobody imagined that even something as rudimentary as fitness or something like that would have an app in it, right? And just look at our phones. Each of our phones. I'm looking at my phone right now, and I have about like 10 pages. I think more than 10 pages of apps on my phone, right? And 5 6 years ago, maybe I had just one screen, and that was it. So as a matter of fact, IDC says that the next thing, by 2026 there'll be 750 million apps. That's a lot of apps, right? And just imagine how much data it's generating. So a lot of data is generating, and from an IT perspective, so it becomes very critical on where to host these apps, right? I mean, especially as we saw in the poll, one thing you have to consider is security, and in many countries also compliance, and some industries like if you have healthcare and financial sector. David was saying there was a question as well on financial sector. Security becomes a critical factor. So essentially, all these apps, all the data this generating, where should we put this workload? Should it be on on-prem? Should it be on the cloud? And that placement actually, once you decide, it's difficult to change it back in many environments. But as I go through this presentation, I think it'll be ideal to have a common platform sitting across on-prem and the cloud, so that you can move this workloads across very flexibly. Like, because when you start off an app, maybe you want to just test the market and you don't know how it will be adopted, so you might be using it in the cloud. But once it becomes mature and you go into different compliance regimes, maybe you want to move it back to on-prem, right? Or vice versa, right? When you're expanding, sometimes you have seasonal demand, you want to move to the cloud. So it's very important for workload placements, right? Where do you place this workload? And if your environment gives that flexibility. So talking about environments, right, like infrastructure environment, let's start off with, the typical infrastructure environment that we have, the centralized storage architecture, right? We call it SAN in general. The way this is architected is you have compute basically, and then you have networking and whole storage arrays, right? And this was built at a time where you want to have, the technology was not so evolved, the networking technology was not so evolved, and the computing was not so evolved, right? I remember the days where you had DOS systems, operating system, and your compute was very minimal. I mean, less than what we have on our cell phones right now, right? Like very much less than that. So for that reason, why like you wanted to put compute all together and then storage all together and all that, right? But with that, there's some limitations as well. The reason, because one thing is you have to have multiple stakeholders, right? Because you have to have somebody managing compute, and somebody managing the network, and someone else managing the storage. So because multiple people, and of course they needed specialized skills, and these were all purpose built systems, right? Different vendors, right? You have different vendors in the market, each managing different things. But when your app is hosted on top of it, if storage fails or network fails or compute fails, your app is going to fail. So who are you going to talk to? That causes a lot of challenges. And that's the reason why, according to research, right, 80% of the time effort was put into maintaining this infrastructure, versus actually spending time on doing something, more higher value for the organization. So to summarize, right, like some of the challenges that we see here with centralized storage is, it requires long-term capacity planning and forecasting. Because as we've seen before, if compute is separate, SAN is separate, right? You have to plan for how much SAN you're going to build out. Right? That's one thing. Not only that, you have to plan for your skill sets of managing that. The second thing is it prevents rapid application provisioning. What I mean by this, I was a developer before, right? When I was developing apps, when I wanted to test out an app, it took some time for my infrastructure admins, right? I used to submit a ticket, and my infrastructure admin used to ask me like, okay, how much compute do you need? How much storage you need? And the ticket has some prioritization. And it took days, sometimes weeks and months also, because I wanted a certain environment, certain copy of production to be dev, so that I could test my app with some amount of data, right? So it impacted how fast I could do my innovations into production. So send my code changes to production. So it prevents this rapid application provisioning. The third thing is it requires forklift upgrades and refresh. What do we mean by that is because of SAN is separate and network is separate and compute is separate, it requires a lot of orchestration in upgrades, right? And upgrades is super important these days, because especially when it comes to security, if you have any security vulnerability and if you have a patch that's released, if you cannot apply that patch in time, essentially you're leaving an opening for a security vulnerability in your system, right? So that is very critical these days, that you need to be able to apply patches and keep your systems up to date. Now, how is, like, we talk about cloud a lot of this and distributed computing. So many of these things are actually solved already using distributed computing, right? So what we call it is, we call it HCI, essentially hyperconverged infrastructure, and it's an integrated compute, storage, and virtualization network, right? As a matter of fact, this is something, the hyperscalers are already building and utilizing these kind of architecture for providing that kind of availability and resilience um, to the two different organizations, right? So this becomes very important. Is it's an infrastructure, essentially HCI is an infrastructure that essentially brings technologies that public cloud computing uses to provide for enterprise IT. So instead of needing to deploy large and flexible storage arrays, you have HCI that enables dynamic data centers that can adjust flexibly to changing business needs. So no longer you have, when you have SAN, you're just focused on SAN, right? Like, it takes a lot of upgrades in it. And also computing, you have to see how much computing you have versus how much SAN you have. Do you need it or not? And sometimes you also have, failures, right? Like, you have to again have another layer of failure control. But at CI, because the way it's built, because it's a distributed IT infrastructure, it helps with also, self-healing environment. It creates a self-healing environment, and you can grow based upon how your business is growing and how your app is growing. For instance, if you just want to start off your app, right, you're just testing it out, um, then you can start off with something that, like, with the capacity and the compute that's needed by your app. And as it grows, right, as you get more and more users to it, then you can add more infrastructure to it. So HCI provides that flexibility for your planning purposes. um, that said, not only that, but it also lays the foundation for hybrid multi-cloud. What I mean by that is HCI, if you use it for your data center, essentially it mimics how, your cloud also functions, right? So once you build that platform for your on-prem data center, you can have that platform extend to the cloud, that essentially giving you a platform or single pane of glass that sits across your on-prem as well as clouds, not just one cloud, but multiple clouds. And going back to the earlier point that I mentioned about workload placements, right? Apps is very important where you place the workloads, and connecting to your cost factor. That was I remember that polling that we did earlier, where you said, like, security was number one factor, and the cost was another factor. So cloud has very good aspects of giving that flexibility, but at the same time, you know, cost is also another big factor when considering cloud, right? As a matter of fact, the new workloads that I'm talking to some of the customers, the AI workloads that people are doing, there's learning and also learning of your systems, right? When you run your AI workload, one of the customers was saying they ran their early AI workload for learning purposes on the cloud, and just for 2 days of learning, it cost them about 200K, right? Just for 2 days of using that compute resources. So that's not sustainable for longer term. So for any app, yes, there's some reasons for the cloud, and there's also reasons for on to be on prem. But when you have reasons for both, then it's better ideal to have an environment that actually connects them seamlessly, so that you can flexibly move your workload from one place to another, right? That's what's important. So this is how Nutanix basically lays that foundation, or HCI lays that foundation for hybrid multi-cloud and moving your data across cloud and also on premises. So in addition to that, not only Nutanix cloud platform lays that single pane of glass across private and public clouds, but also from a business perspective, we give something called, like, you can move portable licensing, right? You can move your licensing across. That's a big benefit. So if you have a license that's on-prem and you want to use that workload to cloud, you can use the same licensing. I don't think, I mean, anybody else in the infrastructure, there's so many people out there, many vendors talking about, yes, we give you hybrid multi-cloud, but no one else provides that simple, identical cloud operating model across, hybrid multi-cloud, right? Across whatever infrastructure you have underneath. Nobody else provides that single, consistent operating model with license portability, right? So that actually is a true experience for hybrid multi-cloud, where it provides, you can simply move your apps and workloads across different cloud regions. You can have access to, cloud native services. You can do basically what you want, and with the skill set that you have, right? Because you need to have specialized skill set for it. So what happens when you have such kind of environment, right? What happens is, essentially, you can extract the best value of the data and applications that you have. So now, without a platform or a single pane of glass that's sitting across all your edge, core, and cloud, they're in separate silos, like, just like you see here on the slide, right? You have edge generating a lot of data, especially in fact, in manufacturing kind of industries or automotive, telecom industries. A lot of data that they're generating that's sitting in a silo in your manufacturing plants, and you have the core, right? Maybe your ERP applications, right? Like in your financial applications and your databases, and you have some applications in the cloud. That's maybe your DevOps or cloud native applications, right? And all this data is essentially sitting in silos. And if you want some key insights on it, you're not able to get it out because they're in different silos. And if you want to also move your apps and data across, it's really difficult. But having a platform like Nutanix that connects these essentially removes that silo, right? That platform makes essentially those infrastructures as one, right? So you have this cloud platform that could help you drive innovation, and also help you with data-driven decision making. So in summarizing some of the things that I want to bring up that Nutanix brings uniquely for your infrastructure environment, right? And how you can future-proof IT infrastructure. As a matter of fact, like, this reminds me, when we talk about future-proof, is one of the largest semiconductor. Actually, we did a press release yesterday, Micron. They were looking for a partner for the next 10, 15 years on who could they rely on for managing their infrastructure, right? Because, Micron's a big semiconductor shop. They have huge manufacturing plants across the globe. And if anybody knows semiconductor, by the way, I have a little bit semiconductor background, in my career. And if you stop their assembly line, if something in the assembly line stops, it's a huge cost for them, right? You just cannot stop. It's a 24/7 running shop. It needs to be like that. Otherwise, you lose all that capacity, all the inventory as well. So you need some partner, that infrastructure partner, that could provide that. And they were also going through some business transformation, right? Moving to modernizing their apps, and trying to have a platform that could connect, not only modernize apps, but also connect to the cloud. And for that future proofing and the partner for the next 10, 15 years, they picked Nutanix, right? So that's the story why, Nutanix could help future proof infrastructure. And the reason they picked us is because, yes, of course, we have data services that we provide, right? The unique data services that a snapshot replication, disaster recovery. The second thing I mentioned is portable licensing. There's no other vendor that provides portable licensing and choice of server and hypervisor across clouds and on-prem. So portable licensing and hybrid multi-cloud operating model. So whenever, there's many organizations out there, vendors out there saying we provide hybrid multi-cloud, but does anyone provide identical operations? So no matter who you use in your infrastructure, either AWS or Azure or on-prem, it's going to be identical. You will have a single dashboard, and you will be able to manage your multi-cloud, hybrid multi-cloud environment using that single dashboard, right? So identical operations across hybrid multi-cloud environment. And you have integrated security and network and security. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like security was a big factor that we also talked about, right? So you've built all the security policies across your on-prem already. So why do you need to reinvent the wheel when you go to the cloud? Why can't you apply the same security policies on the cloud as well, right? Other environments do not provide that, because once you have security policies on-prem, you would have to recreate those policies in the cloud too, right? That's a lot of time and effort that goes into maintenance. So, but if you have a platform that connects both the environments, for all the silos, essentially you can replicate the security policies across your infrastructure. And the PaaS is decoupled from infrastructure as service. This is something that Nutanix has in their vision, where we're connecting data and app services across the hyperscaler infrastructure, right? So this is something that's coming up. We are also offering. And finally, the partner ecosystem, right? This is, we want, Nutanix stands for giving you choice and giving the power back to the customer, right? Whatever, because you know the best for your business. What's the best technology stack that you want to build for your business? So, irrespective of what you want to use for your OEM vendor, what kind of workload that you want to use, what kind of hypervisor you want to use, what kind of cloud you want to use, it's your choice. And Nutanix provides that different ecosystem partners. As a matter of fact, that takes us to the next point. We provide, not only have strategic partnership with many of these partners, and we also recently announced a strategic partnership with Cisco as well, right? So even for your networking, right, we have validated design. So you don't have to, I know, I remember when I was, again, like back in infrastructure days, there used to be like books for each of the OEMs. There used to be books for Cisco, right? I have to read through all that to see how it fits together. What do I install first? What do I install next? What's the different steps for patching, right? That was a lot of effort, right? But now we have validated designs. We give you a kind of a blueprint and how to bring these systems together. We did that hard work for you, and we have all these validated designs across the ecosystem that you could use, right? So if we make it easy and flexible on the best stack that you could build for yourself. And finally, not just us, we're seeing it, right? Yes, partners rely on us. We have other vendors also partner with us and build. We have co-engineering with them so that we function well. Not only all that, but even the analysts actually support the value of Nutanix Cloud Platform. So irrespective of what you do, you're looking for your metric, if you're looking for some business and environment values, or you're looking for operational efficiencies or agility, Nutanix provides that return on investments, right? Some of the things that I want to call out here is, because we talked about cost, in the poll, is Nutanix provides 36% reduced infrastructure cost, right? And also 43% total cost of operations, it lowers that. And recently we did a study on building 3 stacks of infrastructure. One stack completely Nutanix, another stack with mix of Nutanix and another vendor, and then another technology infrastructure stack with just another vendor, right? And to compare the TCO model. And that's how we came up with these numbers, right? These numbers have valid data standing behind it, irrespective of number of deployments, right? You have a small deployment, a medium, large deployment, just a few, say, 100 VMs or, 1,000 VMs or tens of thousand VMs, irrespective of what kind of deployment you have, Nutanix provides reduced total cost of operations, right? And it's a better benefit, and it also provides more efficient IT operations for you. So So even the analysts actually independently studied that and supported. So in closing, what I want to bring up is, yes, we talked about a lot of what we offer, what Nutanix offers, to help you optimize your data and apps across hybrid multi-cloud environment by providing that consistent, identical operating model and one single pane of glass for that sits across your edge and your data center and cloud. Yes, we talked about it, but seeing is believing, right? So we offer you something called a test drive, Nutanix.com/one platform. Basically, it's a sandbox that we've created with our solution. You can go in, there's nothing to install on your end. um, it's like a sandbox. You can play around, test our different solutions, see what happens, how you like it, and look for yourself on all the things I've mentioned before, right? How it works, and provides you that hybrid multi-cloud environment. So that's the closing. And with that said, David, it's back to you.
Excellent presentation. Yeah, I really love the Nutanix solution. I mean, I was just thinking here, you talked about, all the different capabilities, the partnerships, the integrations, the flexible, installation or deployment model, public cloud, hybrid cloud, on premises, the built-in security, the automation, and the validated designs. It's like efficient and optimized, right out of the box. So I really love all the great points you made. And I was putting myself kind of in the shoes of a IT practitioner or decision maker out there, thinking, if I need a new IT infrastructure solution, I don't want to, if I use the analogy of a car, I don't want to have to go to the parts store and buy like all the different parts and bring it back and try to put them all together. I just want
Yeah.
like the most quick, efficient car that just I can bring home and do the job efficiently. And that's kind of what I think Nutanix is. And you've got the car right there on the slide too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So again, excellent presentation. We're going to bring up a poll now for everyone out there in the audience. The question on the screen is, what additional information would you like from the Nutanix team? Maybe some data sheets, technical white papers, case studies on companies like yours that have implemented Nutanix, pricing details, personal demo. See this for yourself. Of course, you can try it there for yourself with the link in the handouts tab. Or maybe you're already a customer out there. I was talking to the IT administrator for my county actually this week, and he said they use Nutanix. So that was cool. So if you have a question for Harsha, now's the time to get it in there in the questions pane. We've got some great questions coming in already. I'll go ahead and just start off with this one. They want to know, can Nutanix scale out storage and compute independently of each other if I only need one or the other?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, that's absolutely right. So we completely understand that some apps, some workloads need more compute power, and some like more storage, right? Depending on performance and storage requirements, and also what existing storage you already have, right? If you're virtualizing your storage, right, maybe you already virtualizing your environment, you already have storage available. Right. So yes, Nutanix provides different combinations of compute storage. So depending upon your needs, we can take different. We provide that option.
Excellent. That's great. I know a lot of companies have a lot of data, or they have a lot of compute needs. Speaking of which, here's a question here. They say, we have an environment. We have about 300 virtual machines. How do I get those running on Nutanix? What would the deployment or migration model be like for that, Harsha?
Yeah, so 3 virtual machines, we have some neat tool called Nutanix Move. People can look it up like Nutanix Move. It's a very easy tool actually, and it's included for Nutanix customers, right? So it's for free. So you have any virtual machines, it allows you to move the virtual machines from a different environment, right? Either cloud, or if you have VMware, right, using ESXi, right, you can move that to Nutanix AHV, right? And it makes it very simple. Actually, what you do is you batch up your virtual machines, and you basically, once you batch it, you assign it to move, and it moves it moves those virtual machines to the new environment, and it has minimal downtime. The reason, because it does not bring down your existing VMs before you actually kind of move over, right? So once it copies over the virtual machines, it has very minimal downtime, but essentially bringing down the old, the previous VMs, and then bringing up the new ones. So it's a neat tool that we provide, and as a matter of fact, there's many customers use that tool a lot, right? So 300 virtual machines, yes, we can help with that if you want to do it yourself. In addition to that, we also have professional migration services, right? We can help you as well, handle you with that, because many of customers have seen that they have automations that were built over, right, years and decades sometimes, that that's sitting there. So they need some help on transferring those automations as well. So we can help with that. Have professional migration services help with that.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like it would be easy to get those migrated and up and running on Nutanix. Another good question here. They're asking about the skills gap. They say it's one of the disruption factors. How are organizations addressing the cost and time of training? What's it like to get up to speed on Nutanix?
It's I would say, I mean, I might be biased, but I would say it's very easy. I've used multiple environments, right? So I would say it's very easy. But important takeaway is, compared to, for instance, if you have SAN, right, you need specialists for networking, and you need specialists for your storage and also compute, right? So that's one thing. And second thing, now it's becoming even more complex, because you have, say, AWS, you use Azure, you need staffing for all of the expertise in all of this, right? And the staffing is not available. I talked to some of my customers in industry, for instance, states and local and education industry. They can't find staffing, specialized staffing for all of the stuff, right? So Nutanix makes it easy, because once you have Nutanix, it doesn't matter what underlying infrastructure that you have. You can manage it using Nutanix single dashboard. We call it Prism. You can manage all infrastructure, whatever you have underlying. Even if you use other vendor, right? Like even if you use VMware, you can manage it using Nutanix Prism, right? And you've used AWS, you can manage it using Nutanix, right? You don't need to get that additional skill set expertise.
Smart. Yeah, you make a great point. I mean, there's a serious staff shortage in the world of IT, and I mean, even if there are staff available, companies aren't really willing to do much hiring these days. So IT pros are being forced to just do more with less, and they need the solution that's as efficient as possible. And this sounds like a great solution for that. Here's a good question from Angela. Hi, Angela. Great to have you on again. She's asking, what tools does Nutanix offer for managing resources and monitoring performance?
Yeah. So I actually have some good questions. I see them. I mean, she's talking about the tools, and also she's talking about security features, right? So from a tools perspective, said Prism, the dashboard I was talking about, essentially that gives you your whole view of your environment, right? Like how much resources you're using, how much VMs, what's the status of your virtual machines. Not only that, actually, in addition to that, it also has intelligence built into it. For instance, I'll give you one example, right? Like connecting back to the cost factor that we talked in the earlier polling. If you're using your cloud and you've been using certain compute on the cloud, and for a long time, it'll actually suggest to you to buy a reserved instance, because that way you'll save a cost, right? That could, it studies your usage of your compute and storage, and it'll give you a suggestion. And it also study your VM utilization, right? If you're not utilizing, if your certain VMs are not utilizing the resources that have been allocated to them, compute or storage resources allocated to them, it actually brings it up and says that, look, you have this resources lying idle, you haven't been using it, so you can reallocate it, right? So it's all could be done from that single dashboard Prism that I'm talking about. So you can manage resources and monitor performance too. And coming to security features, we have something called, another, again, within our portfolio of products, we have in our solution, Nutanix Cloud Platform Solutions, we take care of essentially the east-west traffic, right? So you can see, from VM to VM traffic, how is traffic flowing through. You can create security policies. For instance, if you don't want a certain web server talking to a certain database, you can create that, that kind of traffic policies where they don't communicate to each other. Also, in addition to that, if there's any anomalies where there's a sudden spike of traffic coming up, right, that anomalies are pointed out again, this is integrated into our Prism dashboard. Those anomalies are shows up in those in our dashboard, right? So a lot of things that we can do. Please use, again, test drive. I can't, we don't have time to go through each of those details. So in test drive, we have actually all these features actually showing. So if you just log into test drive, the dashboard that you see is Prism, right? You will see how you can, how kind of visibility that you have, monitoring capabilities that you have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just looking at the Nutanix test drive here. The link to it is in the handouts tab right there at the top. That'll take you to nutanix.com/one-platform. And here you can do test drives by solution. You can do test drive by products. And, you were talking about a lot of these different products, Nutanix Cloud Platform, Flow Security, Disaster Recovery, Prism, all these different solutions, they're all on here. So I encourage everyone to check out that link there in the handouts tab and try out the Nutanix test drive for yourself. I know it's cliche a little bit to say it, but seeing is believing. Let's see, I think we have time for maybe just one more question here from Deepak, who wants to know, what about Nutanix and a unified automation for hybrid cloud? How can Nutanix help with that, Harsha?
Yeah, thanks, Deepak, for the question. Yes, when Nutanix thought about this platform, right? We thought about like two things, right? One is the infrastructure itself, right? How do we build the best infrastructure, provide the best infrastructure, giving that choice? But not only that, we also think about your day one, day two operations, right? Day one, day two operations. You need a lot of automations for it. So we have something called, for instance, we have something called Lifecycle Manager. This is for actually keeping your patches and everything upgraded. It actually automatically checks for dependencies of all your environment when you're applying your patching, and then based upon dependencies, we have something called one-click upgrades. It can help you with those upgrades. So if that's for maintenance perspective. And the second thing for automation, we have some capability called blueprints, right? So you can create custom blueprints that are, for your business, how you run it. And these blueprints are taken care of by Nutanix, right? So that's how we can help with the automation perspective. So we not only take care of the infrastructure perspective, but also, right, your day one, day two operations on how you can create blueprints and automation.
Excellent. All right, I'm just answering a question here from Ben, who said he had some trouble accessing the handout. Just push refresh on your web browser, and that should bring it up. But if not, just Google Nutanix test drive, and that'll take you right there to the same location. Looks like we're all out of time for questions, but this has been a really great educational, eye-opening presentation. Harsha, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
And of course, thank you to the Nutanix team for supporting the EcoCast today. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to them, and of course, try out the test drive for yourself. And then with that, it's now time to announce the winner of our 3 Amazon $300 gift cards. These are going out to Chris Austin from Tennessee, Paul Bardfield from Texas, and Andrew Blodgett, perhaps, from Ohio. Congratulations, Chris, Paul, and Andrew. We'll reach out to you as well as our Best Question Prize winner. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the EcoCast today. And big thank you, of course, to Nutanix for supporting our event. I hope to see you on our next EcoCast happening next Tuesday on accelerating and adopting DevSecOps featuring Kasten. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.